I sent Mike, when Mike reached out, I kind of just sent him a bunch of stuff back. I think like 10 or 12 songs, and he sat with them for a long time, and then grabbed a bunch, and got attached to those, including the song "I'm Easy to Find." And right away, I think he kind of like saw that as maybe at least the title of that or something. He early on he kind of got onto that or something like that, but he took pieces of the songs and he had this other idea that was also simultaneously cooking of how to tell a story of a woman's life, and somehow I think these songs he felt could really help him make that. I don't know which idea came first, but he quickly started imagining a much bigger, more ambitious idea for a short film, meaning something that's not just a short little story, but it's a big story crammed into a really tiny space with using elements other than sort of plot and using texture to create the idea of a life and a portrait of a life, and that was an abstract idea before we saw ALICIA actually embodying this, and he kind of sold it and did a little rough draft of something where he cut up another film and put some subtitling and some of our music to it, like a little 5-minute thing, and to just give us a taste for the arty thing he had in his mind, and it just was immediately resonant, and it felt like an opportunity for us to do something and write in a way that we'd never done before.
Yeah, I like the feeling that because of these subtitles, there was always, even when we were still conceiving lyrics and we were watching the film with songs and partial lyrics, even sometimes maybe just you mumbling melodies, I liked the feeling that there was already this other voice in the writing coming through in the subtitles. And I felt like the challenge in the beginning was to figure out how to bounce off of those, but not be too in line with those.
Yeah, when Mike started sort of showing us bits and the ideas started taking sort of form, it was very much, I was really inspired by just even with writing wise, how you can maybe just strip out the stuff that's supposed to, you think, is gets you from one place to another. Just show glimpses of those places, just glimpses of those thoughts. Just and like Carin says, like a half thought, a thought that's not fully formed. It's this like glimmer of a new thought that comes and goes, and those are when ideas and fragments and words somehow get closer to a truth or something, when they're just to the side, or a blurry version of a description, and so Mike was the whole fabric of the film being the speed with which you go. If you blink, you miss 6 months and of a character's life, and somehow it is even more potent. Like you get emotionally attached to this woman, this child, this baby, then this child, and this young girl really quickly, just by these little moments of small and large that you see, like, connect to her. You feel like it's her personal fabric of identity, and you're seeing her memories or her life flashing before her eyes, and you're there, you're inside her own sort of psyche the whole time, and somehow that makes you really connected, instead of you're not. Other things, you're watching a story or a plot and a character, and you hear their voice and they're talking, you definitely see them as someone other than you that you're observing. For some reason, by taking out the dialogue and all this other stuff, you start to associate with the character. You start to associate with the being, because he's removed so much that you're invited to sort of be her. And Carin and I both immediately, with seeing Alicia's performance and how she was. We have a 10-year-old daughter, and we were just. It was. We were blown away that you almost very quickly forgot that you're looking at this, superstar, and you immediately, it's this anonymous soul that you're watching, and so we quickly started shifting the way we were writing to support that idea.
I love the fact too that between Mike's eye and Alicia's performance, there are so many small moments, and yet every cut you feel kind of immediately grounded in a place or sort of phase of life with her. It's reduced like a dancer would do, and I thought that in a way it's a sort of mirror for what at least I'm trying to do when I'm writing to music, say, that Aaron and Bryce have sent, where what you're trying to do is catch these little moments where you feel the music is already naming something, and you're just sort of trying to find either an interesting corner to prattle on in, or you're trying to find a way to describe or name this thing that's so abstract. And there was something to me so beautiful and so inspiring about watching Alicia's performance and knowing, like, there's such a clear thing being communicated so quickly. And so it was like a challenge, I felt.
And I mean, Carin, I always write really personally about myself in every song I write, and every line is about me generally. And I think Carin would kind of agree that even though we're writing characters in songs and things that are like representing different perspectives, I think we're both channeling ourselves or each other or something, and so it wasn't hard to both write about ourselves and understand that it was going to be repurposed to be more universal through this embodiment by ALICIA, and Mike's sort of packaging of our writing. Was the purpose of it wasn't for autobiographical for our needs. It was for the need of this project. But Carin and I know that we still just write about yourself, and that's the best way to. We're always just writing really, really close to the bone, and we're not interested in anything that's crafted out of some idea of that's not true. That's not real. We have a really hard time. We can write for other voices and other things, but I feel like we're always just writing about ourselves, right? I'm always writing about myself. But I guess somehow this film allowed us to take our own psyches and our own desires and ideas and fears and understand. We assume that those are pretty universal, and so by writing about those and putting them into the songs and using those things in this film, was, I don't know, we had this shield which we kind of hide behind and write even more directly and closer to the bone, because ALICIA and the film and everything, we're a different package than we were used to. It wasn't going to be us on the cover. It wasn't going to be, it was some other thing. So we kind of went deeper. Yeah.
Yeah, I liked too. Right away in an early cut of the film, there was the feeling of your singing. It was maybe still a rough bit of lyric that Mike would move around and find a place for. And I felt you were this character too in her life, the way that, songs stay with us as we age, and the, singers that we identify with sort of feel different to us. And I liked that. But then once we heard Pauline or Gail or Lisa, once we heard Sharon, once we heard any of these other singers, suddenly there really was another psychology. And that was so exciting, I think, probably both to me and Matt, because it was like, I say it was like, oh, there's a whole other wing in our house. We've never been in here. Let's see what we can do here. And a lot of that was because of the film, because having this character and then hearing singing that was either masculine or feminine, it was different. It was different. And the way you thought about the singing and the singer was different. So I thought that was such an interesting challenge.
And when we saw an early draft had me singing everything with the film, and for the most part it was me singing everything, and it was clear that with just my voice and then so much of ALICIA, it created a relationship between this my voice and her character, which was not really suiting the goal of the project. And it was very obvious that we needed to just like Mike was using a sort of a series of actors to play the husband or the mother or the boy, her son, and all these sort of voices that are in ALICIA's mind and in her head, and the story from the dad that comes back later. We were realizing that voices, just like the way his use of actors and stuff, we really needed to not cast the songs and not cast the parts of the songs or the lyrics or the perspective of this lyric as, he said, she said, none of that, but just we needed to cast the sound and the voices to create a fabric of all these influences that create an identity. And so it was really, once seeing the film and was made us realize we needed to not only bring in more literal voices, but also much more of Carin's writing. And I think you seeing the film is where you were like, okay, there's more room for you in this project than maybe other national projects, because of its nature and its intent to be more universal,
And because we had all seen the film, we had all seen a rough cut of the film, so it felt like we were all working toward the same final result somehow, with more evidence to play around with or something, or with more shared imagery almost. Which made it easier, I think, for us all to sort of work alongside each other and separately, but still have a kind of a feeling of a shared goal.
Also, I mean, when performing and singing a song that you write, in a very private way, and then taking it into a studio and then doing it on stage is always a real adjustment, and it's difficult. And then I think, but I've gotten more used to it, just like embodying a not a character, but just like going deep into the emotion of a song every time I try to do it, whether it's in the studio or on stage. And watching ALICIA do what she's doing here, where it's like, you're just seeing, you're in such a compact thing. Mike was, you see an actor just jump, like Mike said, just jump completely emotionally into these very big moments and sometimes really small moments. And how do you go from like the death of your mother to something like this, just kind of daydreaming, at work and dancing to yourself. And she was doing all these things, just talk about hairpin turns. She was having to go from one scene to that, and it was just so inspiring, the courage of to go emotionally into it so far and so fast and so completely. And so I think Carin and I just felt the challenge to do that too with the writing and the lyrics. And many of the songs that are on the record were written after we saw a relatively finished film, and some of them we wrote and Mike was able to squeeze into the film in little ways, like light years and stuff. But a bunch of things were written in response or to the film, and we kind of talked about it, like the record feels a little bit, if this film is a portrait of a life, that the record is sort of the document or the audio portrait of sort of the afterlife, the memory of the life, and how sometimes that expands and becomes and evolves. And so we were very much, thinking of it, that these two things as being the same but different, and the record and the film the whole time.
Yeah, I sort of think about, like, if you're in a conversation with a group of people and one person suddenly starts talking really authentically, it changes the tenor of the whole conversation, and that's kind of how I feel about the performance here. Like, after this, there was sort of no way not to try to get somewhere simple and real.
Sorry for clicking during your commentary, Carin. Um, I'm not listening to the film at all. And anything we should talk? I'm trying to think. What should we hit on? These I loved that when Mike was showing us even a rough draft, he had these different ideas for these blank spots, where it's just text and it's just graphic. And Scott and I are both we met in design school, and we were really into that. That he was sort of like, these semi-alienating moments where it's like boom, just a big splash of color and just words, which was able to give you like a breath from the imagery, but also reboot you a little bit, to when you come back to the thing, you've like jumped time, you've jumped forward. And just, I think we started thinking of the way we write the songs and the way we like, we can have crazy moments and small things that aren't songs in between songs, and we can have these palette cleansers and these. It doesn't have to be this collection of a sequence of hits, or something like that. And we used to just try to sequence our records in this way that was like going to be this like great roller coaster ride. This was we were letting the sequence sort of be determined by the emotional sequence of the whole thing, kind of like the film was. It's not connected to the film. The sequence of the record, even though Mike did sequence the record, it's not really. It doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of slaving. The record was not a slave to the film or any of the chronology of the film, or vice versa. And that was just the nature of it. Just while the way you're seeing these fragments, and then you go back and you see fragments of her life earlier and stuff like that. That's the way our minds work. It's like who are you right now? And you close your eyes and. You're a million anxieties. Some of it is a thought from a childhood. Some of it's about something you have to do tomorrow. Some of it's you're right now. It's all this the time of when things happen is irrelevant inside your psyche and your soul. It's these moments continue to define who you are in ways. So I guess. That was a big thing of that we were really trying to like collect moments, even if the lyrics of the song, just quick little moments, little snapshots, little fragments of images of emotion and a space and a room and a thing. We slamming them together was really. Mike inspired a lot of that, me to change the way I'm writing. And I think the last song I wrote for this was a song called Not in Kansas, which was me really quickly just Aaron sent me a sketch, and I just on my phone just started writing, and I just got some little melody pattern in my head, and I just didn't stop writing, and I wasn't worried about what the song was about or where it was going to start or end or what was the arc of it and what the point was. The only connective tissue to the whole thing was just this title, Not in Kansas. And so I realized somehow Mike says, you can kind of you can put anything inside something, and if you just let it be in, like within this one song or 3 or 5 minute song, just the fact that it's contained in that short amount of space together with the same some drums or the guitar part underneath it is all the connective tissue sometimes you need. And so I wasn't thinking about, when I was writing Not in Kansas, I was thinking the way his film thinks, just jumps and jumps and jumps and jumps forwards and backwards, and it's a fabric of visuals, a fabric of just little bits and things around the room, and song titles and book titles and favorite moments and stuff like that. And I just slammed them together, and that song was, I don't know if I've ever written a song like that, and I don't know if I would have had Mike and I not really kind of talked about that kind of way of thinking.
There's something so nice too about the repetition, which I think is something when you're putting a record together. I feel like Matt and I are always really conscious of like, oh, we kind of did this already on this song. But it was like there was, for us, I think, a little bit of a permission to think harder about the sort of metronome of repetition and the way that these certain events kind of have structured the movement of the film for me was really interesting, because these things have all accumulated so much power by the time you get here.
I also was really the film somehow feels really timeless. It feels really current. You know, it alludes to specific current things throughout it, like the financial crisis, or different things like that. And but I feel like it could almost be anywhere and at any time. And the basic struggles, the small struggles that a person, like who am I? What is it I want? What do I fear? What am I supposed to be? And what do I need? I need to be listened to. I need to be understood. I need to feel safe, and I just need to be loved. And the needs of any person are pretty universal. And so this movie so potently captures all the complexity of a human, and their idea of themselves, and their motivations for the package they come in, and how they present themselves in the world. And somehow it felt like the film reminds you that every one of us probably has the same 5 most important things in their life, and all the rest of it is insignificant, and how we're all essentially this connected. The movie made me feel really connected universally to women, to mothers, fathers, my child, my mother, my people who have since departed. I feel connected to them more, because the movie reminded me how much they're still a part of me, and they're still part of my portrait, and they continue to be influence everything I write and do. So there's a real comforting thing about the film. Your turn, Carin.
I love the way that the the singing feels not always right in line with, but in a trying to keep her company in some way. And then the writing, the subtitling is just sort of keeping us on this conveyor belt of activity and thought. And there's something a little bit brutal about it. But somehow it all has formed this strange piece and this strange, mysterious portrait.
Outside for me in the sun, laying down to soak it all in. Before we had to run, I was always 10 feet behind you. From the start, didn't know you were gone, till we were in the car. Oh, the glory of it all was lost on me, till I saw how hard it'd be to reach you. And I would always be light years away from you. Light years away from you. Thought I saw your mother last weekend in the park. It could have been anybody. It was after dark. Everyone was lighting up in the shadows. Alone, you could have been right there next to me, and I'd have never known.
Oh, the glory of it all was lost on me, till I saw how hard it'd be to reach you. And I would always be light years away from